Good morning, everyone, or good local time to you. It is Thursday, October 20th, and it is 3 weeks from Kubecon, which is a terrifying thought, and also an awesome thought because we'll get to see all of you in Seattle. So this morning we have a demo from the team at Apprenda who has been building a advocacy tool, and I will let Ryan tell us more about the adventure of tracking contributions to Kubernetes.
A very, very fun adventure it is. All right, let me know if you guys can see my screen. You got it? It says, there we go, hold on. You see this here? Cultivating Kubernetes advocacy. Can you all see that?
We can, thank you.
Excellent, most excellent. Well, hello everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with everyone today. My name is Ryan Quackenbush, and I run an internal community and advocacy program at Apprenda. Now, I want to spend the majority of my time showing you what we've done and not stepping through slides, but I need to set a bit of context first. Our intention going into this is to help drive this initiative in the community, and it's really all about helping to, as this slide says, cultivate and engage community of Kubernetes advocates through gamification and rewards. Now, it's something we've had some good success with at Apprenda, and when we heard from a few folks about an interest in creating a way to gamify and reward contributors to the Kubernetes project, this was something that we got pretty excited about and knew that we could help with. Now, that said, what you're seeing here is a screenshot of what I'm about to walk you all through. It's a gamified community hub of different activities called challenges. And these direct members of the community to attend various events and meetings and share and provide feedback on important content, answer questions posed by others on sites like Stack Overflow, et cetera, et cetera. And by completing these challenges, you will collect points, seen here circled by blue, and can redeem them for different types of rewards and fun experiences. Additionally, you'll also earn performance-related badges. Now, beyond the challenges that get posted regularly, community members will also be recognized and compile points for the things that they're already doing today. And what I mean by that is that most importantly, we've built out a full integration with GitHub. This means that there's no new account to create and no changes need to be made in your day-to-day in order for you to be recognized for what you're already contributing at GitHub. This integration will enable us to automatically recognize various activities that users are doing and assign points. Now, before we walk you through the actual demo, I'd like to point out that there's a number of challenges already created in the sandbox environment, and these mimic those that are going to be followed in the actual hub itself. Actually, they're identical. The points that we've assigned to all the various activities are completely arbitrary at the moment, so this is an area that we're hoping all of you can provide a little bit of input to, specifically on what you feel is most important to the community to incentivize and deserving of more recognition. So, with that said, now...
Which leads to another pitch, which is we're going to be wanting beta testers and people to engage with building this out more fully with you.
That's true. That's true. Thank you. But with that said, let me show you what the hub is. So what you're seeing here is me pretending that I'm a new advocate. What you see is what the new advocates will see, with the exception of the branding up top. Speaking of needing help, this is an area that we'll work with others in the communities about branding and logo and this Octocat. So we're going to click this. This brings us right to GitHub. We're going to authorize this application, and as you can see, the permission is limited to public data only. And we're going to authorize that, and that will redirect us back to the port. And we'll create a quick backup password for this. Click next. Fields are invalid. Oh, wait, my name. My name is Kid Icarus, and my password, my email is fakekatesport@yahoo.com. Okay, we'll click next. We'll save that password, and welcome to the Katesport. Now it's going to ask me to really quickly configure my profile. I am the Jumping Arrow Shooting Hero. My company is NES, and we're going to continue. Profile updated. Now, this here is the final step. This is the first challenge to make sure that you get credit for linking up across your GitHub account. So we go here. Basically, this just asks us to create our, put in our GitHub username and our Stack Overflow username. And no problem, here are my creds. Then we get the points for completing the challenge, and it says, hey, you have a bunch of new challenges that you can see now. And there we go. Now, in order to fully test the work we did, I created a shell repository at GitHub and essentially cemented this sandbox environment to it. And that gave me control over greenlighting all the activities there rather than having it wired up to the Kubernetes project. So now here are a number of different challenges I've populated just to give you a quick idea of what they can expect to see. Advocates will receive weekly or bi-weekly challenge digests in their emails, inviting them into the hub, but regardless of whether or not they respond to the emails, they're going to continue to get automated points from GitHub. So let's go down, take a look at this Follow Friday challenge, for example. This is a challenge that can exist, every Friday. It invites different candidates to go ahead and follow different members of the Kubernetes community. In this case, I have highlighted Sarah. And if we want to say somebody came out with a cool demo that we want to show off, we can go ahead and post one of their demos in this, invite the advocates to go directly to it, watch it on YouTube, possibly leave a comment if they feel like it, so on and so forth. If somebody's very active within the hub itself, we of course can recognize that. Now, whether that's recognize them for the total points over the past 30 days, maybe they've issued a bunch of different commits or pull requests. However we decide we want to incentivize that, we can. And then we can create a picture of them here. Here you go. If they have any recent content that we want to link to, we can redirect we can turn this into a multi-stage challenge and have it redirect back to their video blog, what have you, so on and so forth. And if we want to share it on social media, we can have them do that as well. And let's say somebody's done some really cool stuff outside of this hub. Well, we can go ahead and recognize them here as well. So let's say somebody went on Twitter and highlighted the fact that Slack has well over 8,000 members for the community, and they use a cool GIF to do so. Well, this one cracked me up, so that's really the secret reason that I shared that. And then let's also say that we want somebody to answer some questions at Stack Overflow that exists. I think the percentage of answered questions for Kubernetes is somewhere in the 40. So we could use this possibly as a tool to maybe push up that percentage somewhat. And I'd like to also point out that this gentleman here, whose picture you see, is a senior software engineer at Apprenda who doesn't participate a ton in the internal advocacy program that we have here, but he got the automated email that I mentioned a few minutes ago and came back into the sandbox environment and answered a bunch of these Stack Overflow questions. So I thought that was pretty cool. And now I kind of want to show you what the automatic recognition for what you're doing looks like. So this is the GitHub repo test environment that I created. And as you can see, Austin Parker, who is a software developer here, 42 minutes ago, put in a pull request that I accepted as a code commit. So if I bring you, and he also did so completely independent of the hub. I think that's important. So then if I go behind the scenes as an administrator and see all the individual users and contributions, we will see Austin, 41 minutes ago, created this new commit and got points for it. This is being recognized and rewarded with an arbitrary number of points, of course, and it's automatic from GitHub and rewarded in this Kubernetes port. So in short, we're directly engaging the community through challenges and highlighting the work that's being done amongst its members with gamification and a simple performance-based system. Now, through GitHub authorization, we're recognizing contributions automatically, meaning that its members won't have to create new accounts. And with that being said, I'd like to open this up to any feedback you guys have. We're really excited about what we have in place today and have planned to bring out to the community use, and hope that you're as excited by what you see as we were to show it to you. So we've been working on this for about the past month and a half or so and are really pumped to get it out. So my contact info is listed below right here. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. And Sarah, thank you for inviting me to present today. And I'd like to spend the next few minutes opening up to the floor for feedback and questions.
This is super awesome. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, the rest of the team at Apprenda. I've been asked for this by many, many people in the community and in the team here at Google for a while. So the fact that you all stepped up and wanted to do this and have taken it and run with it is amazing. We've had
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we've had some fun suggestions already in the chat as well.
Okay. where do I find the chat? My screen's all messed up because I'm sharing it.
Yeah, so at the bottom of the screen is chat, but I can read some of them. Slack integration was one of the first suggestions because so much of the conversation happens around Slack. We have requests to redeem points for Bitcoin, which may be a little bit harder, but we could totally talk about Google Cloud Platform credits. And we have lots of getting ideas for rewards, as well as what activities we want to reward most highly. Mike suggested that we give credits for reviews more highly because we want to incentivize people to do more reviewing. So I think lots and lots of feedback, or that you are likely to get lots and lots of feedback. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about now? I'll stop chattering.
Well, I had a quick question about what SIG, and I missed the beginning, so sorry about that. Is there a SIG or a particular place where you're going to take feedback going forward or look to kind of continually improve this?
So Matt, that's a really interesting question because there are two possible places for that. One would be contributor experience working group, and then there's also been some discussion about a meta SIG about community, and maybe this is a thing that starts that SIG being moved on. But I would have us go through the SIG proposal process to propose a SIG community.
Totally, makes sense. Yeah, I worked on a couple.
Suggest the contributor experience working group for now. There's plenty of space in that working group to discuss this, and it's very aligned with the goals of that working group. I think this looks awesome. There's still going to be, we've also been talking about Bitergia dashboards and the need to get more data to monitor how well review load is balanced and things like that. So I think discussing all that together would be useful.
So it sounds like contributor experience working group.
Sounds good to me. And I also just want to say I worked on gamification platforms before, and I know how much work is going on behind the scenes to make this awesome. So just another thumbs up. Like, this is really impressive.
I appreciate that. I'm going to be reaching out to you for some feedback then.
Yeah, that's why I spoke up. Happy to.
Awesome.
Matt, meet Ryan. Ryan, meet Matt.
Welcome. Nice to meet you digitally.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else have things, or do we just want to say thank you and a huge round of kudos to Ryan and the team at Apprenda for all this work? All right, we'll go with the thank you and the round of kudos. Many points to Ryan went into the chat. If you haven't found the chat, there are many points waiting for you there.
Oh, look at all those many points.
And yes, we will put his email in the notes. This is awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so up next, we have special interest group updates, API machinery. Brian, you were going to talk about alpha, beta, and GA on APIs.
Specifically on annotations. So we've been using annotations as a way to add experimental fields effectively to more mature APIs, so to beta or GA APIs, so that that would still allow for changes in the representation of the field, or potentially even nuking the features completely if they didn't work out, much like we do versioning for whole APIs. There have been a number of problems with the annotations and moving between alpha, beta, and GA. As in GA, the features are just represented as fields, but the annotations don't work very well with conversion logic and representing the same field effectively, the same information in multiple different places, and the same resource basically cannot possibly work ever. So, we came up with a long-term proposal and discussed short-term options. And in the short term, not much is changing from what we do currently, just because there's not enough time in the 1.5 time frame to do much. So, anything being added as alpha, we're still recommending the use of annotations for now, and things moving from alpha to beta where possible. It really sort of depends on who the consumer of the annotation is. One thing we've done in the past is just have the consumer accept both alpha and beta annotations and not actually convert automatically alpha to beta. And I think we're staying with that same recommendation for now as well. Some things, since alpha technically we said we could break compatibility, some things may just get renamed alpha to beta with no, so alpha would just stop working. There is an issue for the discussing the longer term design. The TLDR of that is we'll create a lighter weight mechanism to produce new API versions. So that way we can leverage the full API machinery to do the conversion between different API versions. And the key thing is the client needs to be able to request what version of the field they expect. So that's something that can be done with our existing API machinery, but creating a new API version is pretty heavyweight at the moment since you have to copy effectively the entire API surface for that API group. So the proposal is a lighter weight version of that where we'd annotate the fields with versioning information. There are details to be fleshed out there. It's not going to be implemented until next year, but I think we're all in agreement that that's the direction we're going to go.
And Joe threw in the notes the mega issue of 30819 that discusses this. Sound like the right one?
I don't remember actually.
Okay. You usually have all the issue numbers.
Wait, you don't remember, Brian?
I know.
Did he have a stroke? Is everything okay?
So and Brian, I mean, one thing here is that, I thank you for giving the update in the group here. As the stuff gets decided, just sending out a summary so that sort of the salient points are widely distributed and aren't hidden behind sort of, a 100 item issue would be awesome.
Yeah, and it was discussed in the API machinery SIG. I agree, summary, so that would be useful. Daniel's out, so I may do that.
I think the API machinery stuff is a little bit special in some ways because a lot of the decisions that you guys are making are going to have quite a bit of impact on other stuff that's ongoing. And so I'd love to see sort of the lines of communication and summaries be more up and,
Broader.
Yep.
And broader.
Yeah.
That is a request we have heard, and we will continue to try to make that happen more. We brought in 2 additional leads to SIG API machinery recently, so hopefully we can, and I think we've seen some responses and updates from them as well. So maybe we can spread the this issue across more people. Okay, awesome. Any other questions on API machinery and the annotations decisions? Nope. All right. Well, you all know how to find Brian anyway, if you have further questions. All right, so on to SIG apps. Michelle and Matt, are you available to tag team and chat about the charts repo and 1.5 targeted work?
Yep, we're here.
Sweet.
I've got a little screen share for you. So hello, I'm Michelle, and Matt Farina is on the line as well. We're here to talk to you about SIG apps, and this is our first formal update. So SIG apps' purpose is twofold. In SIG apps, we discuss how to define, run, and manage applications in Kubernetes. And we also discuss and facilitate technical priorities in Kubernetes development itself that relates to running apps.
What's an application?
An application in Kubernetes. Excuse me?
Yeah. I hear the word application thrown around a lot by different people who mean different things by it.
Okay, so anything that runs inside Kubernetes, this could be microservices, web apps, that kind of thing.
It would be a workload that Kubernetes is running on behalf of your users, not part of Kubernetes itself, the infrastructure system.
And Mike, there is a topic, there is a room in the Developer Summit that is going to have this as a topic. what is a service? What is an application? How do we define them? How do we make them easier to work? And how do we have a consistent view on this? So I think that is a question that lots of people voted up when we put out the topics for the Dev Summit. So we will have more conversations about that.
Thank you.
Thanks. That threw me off guard a little bit. So basically, we have a 1 hour meeting every Monday, or around 40 people, give or take a few. We generally do announcements, demos, some stand-ups on our technical priorities, and then we have scheduled discussion topics followed by open discussion. So demos are a big part of SIG apps. Lately, the theme has been CI/CD. And then we also have done demos of tools built on top of Kubernetes in the past. And we also have demos on features, such as deployments, volumes, and jobs. And sometimes these are demos from developers themselves, and other times they're demos by people using the features. So in the future, we'll probably go towards talking about the app development workflow, as well as the user experience and onboarding of people onto Kubernetes for running applications. So I'll hand it over to Matt here to discuss the technical priorities that we've been focusing on.
So the technical priorities have well, what we did was we pulled together the SIG and walked through the technical priorities of the 40 or so people who've been coming. And we looked at what the technical priorities would be, not just in what we wanted, but what we thought the priorities would be, and what we thought, and what people were willing to actively contribute to. And so what I'm going to walk through are kind of the high level things that we've been pushing for and discussing. And a lot of it's just, where the activity is right now. And so the first, if you could go to the next slide, please, is Helm. Helm has just gone into the beta cycle. It's come out of alpha. And so there is lots of activity. There's a room in Slack for it. But Helm has gone into beta, which will slowly move it towards stability. In alpha, they were adding in a whole lot of features, and now it's moving towards stability, which is what will drive towards release candidates when it's ready. And so if you want to, please submit an issue, go check it out, because at this point, they just want to make it stable. And then Helm, to go along with Helm, whenever you have that, we also have the charts repo. Can you go to the next? Oh, there we go. And right now there are 21 charts that are in there that Helm can go install. And of course, Helm is capable of having custom charts, not just the main charts repository. And there's incubator and stable charts. Incubator is as we kind of work through, or as the chart authors work through things, they're able to add new features, work with PetSets and things like that nature. But stable ones are things that they now consider to be stable and ready to go. And there's some criteria around that, what it takes to get into stable. But there are 21 charts, and they're working on a development best practices guide to just kind of teach people how to go about doing that. And so that's Helm and the charts. The next one is stateful applications, PetSets. And I understand somebody will be talking about later in this meeting the renaming of that to maybe a better name. But we're basically continuing to champion that and move forward with it. And some of the charts are starting to poke at how do you use PetSets. And then the next one is app controller. It's the idea of how do we have dependencies and ordered dependencies when you're starting stuff up. And so there are folks working on doing that. In fact, we just got a demo of that. And so those are just a real quick overview of the different topic areas that we're working on. We are doing a meetup at Kubecon on Monday at 4:30. Thank you. And so here's our contact information if you've got questions. Is there anything else? Let's see, is there anything in chat? Matt Butcher just said, and to go back to the charts repo real quick, Matt noted that if you visit the repo and you don't see a chart for something you'd like, please file an issue. We're going to try and use issues to upvote what people want.
And that ties to the common workloads work that's being done, correct? Maybe.
Yes. So you can go to the Kubernetes charts repo and check out some of the charts we have in there. There's 21 of them. So it's a place to get started. For example, with applications like MariaDB or WordPress. WordPress is the big example that we give people. So you can go in, you can grab Helm, you can install this chart in your cluster using Helm, and then you can also configure the chart to meet your needs because we understand not everybody is going to have the same application requirements. So, so check that out in the charts repo.
Awesome. And then there will be many discussions, I'm sure, about all of the things application related at the Developer Summit. And at Kubernetes, because we'll have lots of or at Kubecon, because we'll have lots of users talking about how they're using Kubernetes. Thank you very much, Michelle and Matt. And of course, you can always find them on the SIG Apps Slack channel, and I'm sure 100 other ways. And we'll put the link to the deck into the meeting notes. So on to our next topic, releases. So we have the trailing release and the forward-looking release. So tell us, Jesse, about the 1.4 release this week.
Yeah, so we released 1.43 on Sunday, I guess, but you should update because there's a security fix in there for certificates on auth. And then we're probably going to do the next one, not this week, but the week after, just to like get back into the every other week flow, as long as nothing huge comes up. So just keep like CCing me on your cherry pick PRs that you want in that. And that's about it.
Awesome. Any questions about 1.4 future releases or 1.4 release from this week? Fantastic. We'll just keep trucking along to the 1.5 release. Saad and Caleb.
So the 1.50 Alpha 1 release went out last week. We're trying to keep a bi-weekly schedule, so the next one should be about a week away. Next up, reminder that code freeze is less than 3 weeks away. That means all the planned code changes you want for 1.5, make sure they are merged by November 7th. If you miss that date, you're going to have to go through an exception process. And finally, we're planning on cutting the 1.5 branch earlier than a normal milestone. The reason for this is that in the past, we've discovered it takes multiple weeks to set up the test infrastructure for new branches. The long-term goal is to fix that process so that it doesn't take so long. But we have the ability to cut a branch and then fast forward it a few weeks later. So for this release, we want to get started on cutting the branch early, getting the test infrastructure set up for it, and then we will fast forward it around code freeze time to match up with head. So that's just a heads up, and that's all for the 1.5 release.
Sweet. Excellent. Okay, so now on to the meaty topic of the day. Dan, are you here and have audio working?
Yeah, I'm here, and I think I have.
Fantastic. You do have audio working. Thank you. So there has been discussion ongoing for 6 months or so about renaming PetSets because there have been concerns raised by a few people that PetSets can be considered or viewed offensive from varying cultural perspectives. So Dan, I will let you go ahead and talk a little bit about your process and plan for finding the next thing.
Yeah, so essentially, like, just to back up in terms of like what we've been doing is the discussion has been going on in GitHub. There's a link in the meeting notes around where that discussion's been taking place. We wanted to try to get this name change done before we move into beta. So we only have a few more weeks left for that, and that's what's been one of the forcing functions in terms of trying to get this new name set up. Yesterday I sent out a poll, and I took kind of the most popular names that were in that thread and sent that out to say, hey, let's vote on these to figure out what we should set the new name. I did get a lot of feedback, or some feedback yesterday asking, hey, why weren't some of the names that I liked included on this list? And so as a result, I stopped the poll and I said, well, look, how about this? Let's change the plan so that we can solicit new names until 5 p.m. today. We'll gather up some new names here, and we'll come up with another list, and I'll resend a poll later tonight. That's the current plan right now. If you want to solicit like new names that you think should be on the list for contention, you can add those as a comment in that GitHub link. We have a couple of outstanding issues that we're still working through today. Probably the first one is whether we should offer PetSets as an option or not. And that's been kind of going back and forth in terms of like, hey, if this is an offensive term, then, then the whole goal of this was to change the name. But if we keep that as an option, maybe it's not changing. So that's still going back and forth. And the second is, what would the migration process look like for existing users that are already using pets and already have pets created? What would that be like? Because as part of beta, we'd be creating a new set. And I think Eric sent some comments in there about what the migration compatibility would look like in that type of situation. So that's currently where we are. I know there are a lot of questions, but I think we can probably try to answer some of them here. I don't necessarily, but that's the latest in terms of like what we're working on in terms of the renaming of that sense.
So let's start with breaking that apart. Does anyone here have concerns, and what are those concerns about the renaming? Are they simply the complexity of the renaming and what the migration path is, or are there additional concerns? I hit all of them, all the concerns. Okay, or somebody's on mute. All right, so we need to understand then clearly the complexity of the change and what the path is to the change in making this decision. Okay, so then are people comfortable with Dan soliciting more ideas and names today and then reopening the poll for feedback and feedback and a vote this evening?
So just real quickly, I think some of the concerns around PetSet is around offensiveness because it brings in the whole shooting cattle in the head thing, just to be clear for people who weren't clear on that. I think some of it, though, is that it's kind of an inside joke, an inside thing. You have to understand pets versus cattle and be sort of steeped in that to really have the thing have any meaning to you. And so my guess is that's probably the larger concern there.
Right.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, this is a great opportunity for folks who haven't been participating in like some of the naming discussions to think through and, consider how these names are going to be presented to end users, right? Like if we change away from PetSet, the new name really should represent something that's approachable and understandable. And so if folks who have strong opinions feel that the names that they see on the poll they don't like, make some suggestions and suggest why you think it's a better name. Like just don't come up with a name, but make an argument for why it's good. That'll help some of the justifications for this.
Yeah, please, if you suggest a name, do think it through. Go read the thread and some of the considerations that are put into some of the names and think about context in which it's going to be used and discussed, right? And how users who are new and looking to apply this thing to the obvious use cases might find it, and then how, considerations like how do you describe instances of the thing and things like that. So a bunch of those considerations are discussed in the issue that was posted to the chat.
So just mechanically, help me make sure I understand this correctly. If we want to suggest something new, or the poll so far is the set of every name suggested in issue 27.430, is that it? And then to make a new suggestion, we just put another comment in that same issue?
Well, just to be clear, what I did yesterday was I started with all of the suggestions that came up in that issue thread, but I filtered those out into the ones that, we had some discussions and said why some are not good, some are okay. And there was a filtered list that was like, I think 8 or so suggested names. That's a list that people said, well, there's other names that I'd like to propose. And so that's why the poll was closed and saying now we have another 3-4 more suggestions right now, but if you have other suggestions, feel free to add them to that list, and that's what will be added. The initial poll wasn't every single suggestion that ever came up in that thread. Just to be clear, it was a subset of those, and I think that's what maybe some of the issue was.
So again, my question is simple mechanics. Where do I see the current poll, and how do I contribute to it?
It's in that GitHub issue towards the bottom.
So there will be a process, which we hope will be as transparent as we possibly can, of translation from the issue into the poll. GitHub doesn't have polling, so we can't do it there. We're going to move it from there to the poll. That's what Dan is working on. Please voice your thoughts in that issue, not here. Please in the issue so everyone can see. And we will do that translation process as transparently and openly as we possibly can.
Also, it's a ranked choice voting. If there's lots of options, it feels unsatisfactory to say, like, we picked the winner and it had 3% of the vote, which you get if you just did plain pick one polling. So with ranked choice, you get more information for each person. And so when we do pick a result, it has more weight because it considered more information from people. That's why it's not in GitHub, one reason.
And if we think about this is the first time we've ever really tried to do something like this in the community, so I'm pretty sure we're going to screw it up, right? Nobody loves democracy until they want their opinion heard, and then everybody hates democracy when they don't like what everybybody else chooses. So
no, we get to do it my way, Clayton.
Exactly. This is a really important.
With the name change.
I'd like to take this moment to say that I will evaluate what the results will be when I see them and decide at that point. I will not be.
Thank you, Donald.
Too soon, man. Too soon.
It's really important too that like the lesson that we get out of this as a community is there's going to be a lot of feedback and a lot of opinions, and the goal is really to pick the thing that's going to be best for the project overall, right? To get a name that's going to really represent Cube to all the users. It's going to be easy to understand. So please put that consideration in account when voting.
Clayton, awesome.
I went looking for that link. I found about 75% of the way from the beginning, 25% from the end of the issue, a link to a closed poll. So what are we being asked to do again?
A new poll will be created this afternoon.
Dan just posted the list of current options to the bottom of the issue, 27,430.
Thank you.
Yeah, there will be a new poll this afternoon, Mike. It will be announced on Kubernetes Dev, and we will ostensibly, if we do this democracy thing right, everyone will be unhappy, and we will have consensus but not unanimity.
All right. You might want to, how did you say the poll is going to be announced?
What about this? I'm thinking about subscribing to 27430. I just said that weird. Just subscribing to the notifications on that issue so that if anything else gets posted there, including the poll, I'll know it. What if everybody that's interested subscribes to it so that we get the email notification specifically?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I send out the new poll link. I'll add it in there, but I also email it out to Kubernetes Dev, the Google group, to everybody as well through that.
Perfect.
So those are the two channels. I mean, I can also add it in Slack as well if you want, as a third channel.
All the channels.
Well, not all the channels.
Okay.
Do not post it to Twitter, please.
No.
So we need other people voting on what the name.
People shouldn't be voting if they have no clue what it's for.
Right. Yes.
So, could I ask a meta question?
Yes, let's do meta question.
Well, so the quick meta question here, or I would say meta proposal, is that we shouldn't be putting this much energy into naming things when they're at the alpha stage, but clearly when things are going from alpha to beta, I'm just proposing that. We can't put this much energy into the naming of every new thing, but we do need to get the names right when it's clear they are going to be important. So just a proposal for consideration is to make the naming thing be sort of an alpha to beta transition.
That's
exactly what this is.
Okay, well, it felt like a one-off. If we're going to do this for everything, then perhaps I'm behind on the meta point.
I don't think we have time to discuss it now, but we should discuss whether we should ever do this again. I actually think a user study might be better than polling
the devs. So Eric has been very graciously raising his hand in his video and hoping to say something. So Eric, soon.
So two thoughts. One is this poll is not just open to devs, it's open to anyone with an IP address. So I thought when I suggested to Dan that we use this type of poll, I had in mind that it would include users who don't have GitHub accounts but are active users of Kubernetes, which I'm sure exist. Please don't spam the vote.
I think we need to put an explanation of what this is and what it does and the context in which it's used if we expect people
who have not been actively involved.
Who have
in all
not
of
been
this.
as heavily active, like even people who vaguely know what it's for don't actually know what it does.
I'd nominate Brian to provide 3 sentences to 5 sentences to
Wow, that's a withering look you're not seeing.
to Dan to have in the poll. The second thing I wanted to say was there has been a lot of discussion on the issue about alpha obligations
And alpha to beta conversion.
and transition. I envision this to be breaking. It would be sad if we had a vote and everyone was like, yay, we're happy with the political process. And then they said, oh crap, I have to turn down my pet sets and turn them up into my winner of the vote sets. So wanted to put that out there that when we pick a new name, it's alpha. Does anyone want to talk to the alpha breakage thing?
I think that is one of the things that we determined we need to evaluate in this name change is what is the path to new name. So we will vote on a new name, but also make sure we understand what it. So we end up with a new name and what is the path to the breakage through the breakage for the end user, so that we have both of those as decision points on changing the name.
What is the vote? Okay.
Go for it. Spit it out. Am I being unclear? Probably.
Just to be clear,
Yeah.
If we change the name to anything other than PetSet, then the plan is that everybody who has pet sets running in production, which they shouldn't have done because it's alpha, has to delete their pet sets and create them again after the upgrade. It's unfortunate that the offense issue is linked to the upgrade issue, but it is.
And this is primarily because the cost of carrying alpha and beta at the same time is just going to be too high?
I feel, having worked on this twice with Job, each time it has shocked me how much more complicated it was to do to do something new in the API, the CSI code, than.
Yeah,
I feel qualified to say this is definitely going to be a hard change to make compatible. We can't.
Yeah, well, we should have a longer discussion about this. I think people should be aware of the consequence of it, but we did do this at least once with minions, and in some of the other renames, we do have at least some of the machinery here, but you're right, it should not be treated as zero cost. Eric, maybe this is something we can discuss before the next meeting.
Also, just to point out, I believe the pull request for renaming minions is still open.
Yes, if people want to help scrub the rest of our code and doc of that term, that would be awesome.
Yes, I will send a cookie to anyone who sends me PRs that replace minions with nodes.
Everywhere except for the line in etcd that ensures that old clusters don't break.
Fair point.
I think Eric does bring up a fair point here. It was alpha. He would like cookies, and so let's just break it. Wait, no, that's not. I paraphrased. if the name is offensive and misleading, can we just agree to break it? It was an alpha. It was an alpha feature, and that is a risk that we have always said exists in alpha features.
Is it explicit somewhere that alpha can be just completely changed?
I'm pretty sure that's documented.
Okay.
API documentation.
We've done a good job or a poor job, depending on your perspective. We've done a poor job of breaking alpha on a regular basis, so people have come to rely on the fact that alpha is more stable than we promised it would be.
Which is both good and bad, yes. So Brendan is also saying if we set no cascade, isn't it safe to delete the object and then recreate the new named one, and then it will adopt the new ones?
Adopt the pods. I'm guessing that will work.
I think so too. I need to test it, but that sounds right. So we could give people a script that you have to run after upgrade. That's pretty nice. It's alpha.
It's alpha. I think the key point is it's alpha. Okay, so forward with the vote. put your opinions, many and varied though they may be, into the GitHub issue. Dan, welcome to the community. Trial by fire is always fun. You've handled this graciously. Eric and Clayton, thank you both for your thoughts and opinions as well, and bringing up the concerns from all the different sides in this and talking through it.
Thanks to the community for understanding while we figure out how to make decisions.
Yeah,
I love this community. So
I have recently referred to this as trying to build the wings on the bus as we're going. So Vic has also brought out the API versioning documentation, which does say at your own risk. All right, anything else on renaming, or will we just look forward to Dan's new poll later this afternoon? Sweet. All right, then my last couple of topics here are about the road to Kubecon. So Kubecon sold out yesterday. We knew it was going to happen. We knew it was a little too tight, but if you didn't get your ticket already, get on the wait list now, because I suspect there will be some churn and some possibility, but get on the wait list now. Even if you don't know for sure if you're going, if you think you might and you didn't get a ticket yet, please do that. There are going to be a bunch of face-to-face meetings for SIGs during KubeCon, and there is a link to a document that Ihor has set up to try and schedule those face-to-face meetings in this document, in the community meeting notes. And there is also space being offered by the Cloud Native Compute Foundation during the conference in the hack room space. So on the Kubernetes SIG leads mailing list, those negotiations are happening. But take a peek at the face-to-face meetings document to see if you can attend, if you want to suggest times for your SIGs, and also just help your SIG leads figure out when to meet and where at KubeCon. Last thing in the road to KubeCon is the Developer Summit. So invites went out last week to people based on a rubric of asking a number of companies to submit all of the people that they wanted to talk to at the Developer Summit, as well as a few names from their own companies. And that plus SIG leads plus a list of the topics that were selected, which will be published as a schedule later. The people who submitted those topics were also invited. Then there was the lottery, which many of you signed up for. Thank you for doing that. Right now we have about 18 people on the wait list. So if you received an invite for the Developer Summit and you are unable to go, or if you are able to go, please RSVP, and please RSVP by Wednesday. Cameron has been sending you notes, and he will continue to send you notes until he hears from you. And then he will send you a warning note on Wednesday that your seat is going to be given away if you haven't RSVP'd, because we very much want to get as many people that can attend to attend, many of the right people who are interested attending. And as I said, there are about 18 people who had expressed interest and are still on the wait list. So my hope is we will get many of them in as well. The schedule, Jason, to you who is taking notes so graciously, the schedule will go up early next week for what the topics are at the Developer Summit. There are going to be 3 rooms which have discussion topics, so they're not going to be presentations. They're going to be facilitated discussions where we expect that there will be a plan and action items and owners to try and follow up on the discussion that come out of these rooms. There will be 2 rooms that will be unscheduled, and you'll be able to schedule on site. So it's a semi-unconference if you've ever done unconference. We aren't going to spend the first hour to 2 hours of the day developing the schedule. We've developed half the schedule already, and then half the schedule is going to be developed on site. I see a question that KubeCon was 1,000 people. Yes. Yes, it was 1,000 people was the cap, and that is a fire marshal limit, which is why we are now sold out, which is awesome, but it also gives us more information for next fall, which is going to be bigger and madder and crazier and more fun. So Bob, is there going to be a session on appropriate project naming? Only if you lead it. And yes, we can do camping outside the con if you want, but it is Seattle. And okay, now we've moved on to Snark. Sorry, Joe, that's officially Snark. Anyone else have any notices? Aparna's got something.
We were thinking of having a no meetings week the week after Kubecon if people feel that they've met enough at Kubecon.
Oh my gosh, that sounds brilliant. Okay, so Aparna has proposed that no one in Kubernetes has any meetings with anyone else in Kubernetes or Google or Red Hat or including SIGs the week after KubeCon to sort of, shall we say, integrate all of the awesome that we had at KubeCon. And we've got some hands raised from Caleb. So
the goal was to give people time to do,
release stuff, work stuff, yes.
Yeah.
And also integrate all of what's happened and maybe make progress against things before trying to report.
Right.
I can happily cancel this meeting that week if we're all on top of that. All right, well, we can continue to discuss it, but I think it's a great idea because we will have seen so much of each other that week. All right, any other topics, notices, thoughts, snarky comments? All right, happy Thursday, and thank you all for having such an awesome discussion about PetSet namings and getting us in 5 minutes early. See you all next week.